This is Olga Adler from Austin Businesswoman, and we are going to talk about health today. My special guest is Lahana Vigilano. She's the founder of Wellness, a certified nutritionist and dietitian, and she's going to give us a lot of actionable steps and a lot of useful information about energy level, hormone health, gut flora and gut health, sleep, stress, all those things that make our life complex and multifaceted. Hi, Lahana. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm excited to geek out on this subject with y'all.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your background. What led you to this path?
Yeah, so I was originally pre-med, so I've always had a love for healthcare in general. And I think when I started seeing like a pill for every ill, that's kind of what turned me off because I felt like intuitively there was something just so much deeper and things that we needed to explore that is just not as simple as giving someone a medication, which is needed in certain aspects. But I knew that there was something more. And so I also started having kids. And so I think just wanting the flexibility and then wanting something more than just what the medical field could give me. I don't know. I just kind of found this. I found nutrition, and it actually, yeah, it crossed off all the check boxes for what I was looking for in like a career. So happy to have found it.
Yeah, and how long have you been in business? How long has Nuvitra been around?
Since 2015. Yeah, since 2015.
Wow, it's been many years. Have you seen any big changes and maybe habits or health in general after the pandemic? Because you witness, the
Oh,
pre-pandemic, the pandemic, and the after.
I would say people started seeing the value of health, which was a good thing. It sucks that we had to have a pandemic to kind of see that, but hey, we're here. So I would say that would probably be the biggest thing that I saw shift during the pandemic for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think a lot of people undervalue nutrition and other things, non strictly medical things that impact our health. And I can't wait to learn more about it. So, do you want to get started with
Do
the
it.
workshop?
Let's do it.
Okay. I know you prepared some materials for us. So, there
Yes.
you go.
Yes. And thank you for hosting my screen share. I know we had a little tech thing. So I will
It's
be
good.
guiding you through that. But I'm excited to chat more about hustling healthy and taking care of yourself as an entrepreneur. Obviously, I understand what entrepreneur entails, and you got to be on your tippy toes. You got to be energized. You got to be ready, right? We can't be building a business. Well, I mean, you technically could build a business from your bed, but the best business in getting out there, you got to be feeling well. So let's go ahead and get started. I will cover the next slide. This is what we'll cover in this presentation. We'll go over like what you're eating and how that makes or breaks your energy, and including some of those simple dietary changes that you can literally do for lunch. Impact of stress and how that impacts your hormones and health, and sleep as well. Sleep is super underrated, and we're going to talk about how that's impacting your hormones and health, and also some tips on how to improve that as well.
Great. Do we go further? Next slide.
Yes, let's go. Next slide. A little bit about me. So my background, I'm a nerd through and through. So my undergrad is in nutrition science. My master's degree is in human nutrition and functional medicine. And I'm actually a current doctorate student as well in clinical nutrition. Obviously, I live in Austin. I have 2 kiddos, and I'm the founder and CEO of Nutritionist. And we're just a virtual clinic helping women use food as medicine for hormonal issues and digestion. Next slide.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of people see that the healthcare field is very noisy. So I wanted to start off with just a couple of things to keep in mind. Is one, your symptoms are your body speaking to you. And so it's really time to like be in tune with that and understand what it's trying to tell you. 2, everyone is different. So bioindividuality is so important. That is why something may work for your friend, but may not work for you. And then 3 is always asking why. So someone can give you a diagnosis, and then you can ask why that is. So like endometriosis, why do I have endometriosis? Oh, you might have too much estrogen. Well, why do I have too much estrogen? When you keep asking why, you can usually get down to the root cause, and we'll go into that today. But first up, we'll talk energy because that is what something I find a lot of women struggle with. Like I said, you have a passion, you have a big business, you want to do it all. Energy is top priority for us. So let's get into how diet is impacting your energy levels. Next slide. So, why food is fuel? So, I want you to think of a car and what happens when you stop giving it gas? It does eventually stop. Now, the same goes for our bodies, except we're not like, we just don't croak over right away. We do have some safety mechanisms that do help us, but when we don't fuel our body properly, it doesn't work properly. Next slide.
It's
And
lagging a little, so it takes like 3 seconds
perfect.
to pull it
Okay.
up.
Awesome. What we see in our practice, not like 98% of women are under eating. And these are also women who think they're eating enough, who's following hunger cues, who truly do think that they're eating as much as they can. They're not hungry. But a lot of people, when we really get into the nitty gritty details, they don't even realize that they're under eating. And under eating or skipping meals, this will shift your body's priorities to use that little bit of fuel you're giving it. It's going to keep our vital organs going. So we're alive. So our heart, our lungs, our brain, but you won't be feeling super energized throughout the day. So that's at a micro standpoint. So like thinking of food as fuel, like carbs and proteins and fats, but on a micro scale, nutrient deficiencies also run rampant when your energy is poor. Now I'm kind of going back to like high school biology, so excuse the trauma
Yeah.
here. But here on the left side
Didn't
is a
expect that. Bring it out on me.
I love combining a little bit of science because I like helping you learn how the body works, but also like, kind of dumbing it down too for people who like do not do science. But in this Krebs cycle, this is literally creating cellular energy. And you can see in the picture that there are B vitamins and iron and CoQ10, all these nutrients that run this. So when we have a nutrient deficiency, there will be a break in the system. And then you will not be able to literally produce cellular energy. So from a macro standpoint, we got to look at the carbs, proteins, and fats and eating enough. But on a micro standpoint, looking at nutrient dense foods, providing our bodies with these vitamins and minerals, that's really important for being energized as well, as we can see in the Krebs cycle. Very important to make energy. So I do love micronutrient testing to help women understand what their deficiencies are and seeing what they need to be eating and supplementing with, and they're not doing any guesswork. Next slide.
Do you know if people usually do this kind of testing in regular clinical environment, or if it's something that you have to go to a nutritionist to do?
They will hit the main ones like B12 and vitamin D, but definitely not majority. And they're only looking at what's inside the serum. So, what's floating around in the blood. We're looking at what's
Mhm.
floating around in the blood and what's inside the cell. Because as you can see in the Krebs cycle, that's inside the cell. So, all the party is happening inside the cell. So, we want to make sure that you could be normal inside your blood, but deficient inside your cell. So, there could be a
Mhm.
cellular absorption issue. So, I think the most like very good bird eye view of your nutrients won't be through like conventional medicine.
Got it.
So, blood sugar balance is another key component of how diet impacts your energy. When you are riding that blood sugar roller coaster, you're going to get those energy dips. You're going to like crash. So, this is where we want to enter in like not only eating enough, but eating in balanced plates. So, I have a couple of examples on the next slide. So here's like a breakfast example. Thank the Canva gods for this because obviously, if you cook it, it's going to be way prettier than this. But my whole goal here is to show you eggs being your fat protein, carbs being your carbs, veggies, always got to have veggies, and avocados for fats. So you have fats and fats and proteins in eggs, fats and avocado, and carbs in potatoes. So that's one example. Next slide.
While it's changing, I wanted to ask you: is there a trend for eating yolkless omelets? Like I see a
Oh,
lot of people just buying egg whites and cooking with those. So I was wondering if it's some kind of
yeah.
trend now.
No, I think I thought it was dying down. That was definitely the low fat craze because they're just wanting the protein from the egg white and not the fat. but the yolk is actually where all the like vitamins and choline, all that stuff is in the egg yolk. So yes, you get less fat. So that's why it was a trend in like the low fat craze, because they just were able to get the protein from the whites and not the fats. But then at the same time, you're also not getting the nutrients from the egg yolks. So I'm hoping that people are eating full egg because it is very beneficial. And I think the whole eggs causing like cardiovascular disease, which has been debunked for a long time. I think that message is getting out there. So I don't know, maybe people just want to add some extra protein, but don't
Yeah,
avoid the yolks.
hopefully, because I ordered groceries and they mixed it up and they added a huge box of egg whites in my order. It's like, I don't know how many are the gallons of egg whites. And
Oh
either
my gosh.
it was ordered to make a lot of meringues or macaroons, or people are just really on
Okay.
that kind of diet. So I was wondering.
Yes. I'm about to say there are some baked goods that you want egg whites. So I could see that. But here's another example. So like Applegate sausage, that's your protein, has some fats, some fruit for your carbs, and veggies, of course. And let's pretend that we roasted these in some like avocado oil or olive oil. So there's your fats. So fats, proteins, carbs. Next slide. I'll show you like a little lunch.
We have a question from our audience. If you could address that. Protein ideas for a vegetarian breakfast other than Greek yogurt to people who are
Oh,
allergic to eggs.
We don't specialize too much in vegan vegetarian, but I will say that like I want people to think of breakfast as just another normal meal. I don't think it has to be like eggs, sausage, Greek yogurt parfaits. It can be anything. So you can combo some like legumes and grains. There's other like ways that you can get that protein in. Obviously, there's like protein smoothies that you can use, a vegetarian source. But I like this example, like for lunch and dinner. Honestly, you can do this for breakfast. I know that creeps some people out, but it's just another meal. I think it's only like in America that we've had these specific breakfast foods. And so I love like getting people be like, you can have leftovers for breakfast. And I know it's a little weird, but you can do that. So you can have like the legumes and stuff for breakfast, no problem. So here's an example of a balanced plate. We have our carbs through our sweet potato, protein through chicken, broccoli, and asparagus for our veggies. And again, cooked in like olive oil, avocado oil for our fats. So pretty simple. And then the next slide, I wanted to get a little bit of normal because your girl loves a burger. Let's
Oh.
pretend this is not fast food. It's like homemade. But we are making like homemade sweet potato fries for our carbs. We got our grass-fed beef for our protein, has a little bit of fat. If you do okay with dairy, you could do a little grass-fed cheese, tomatoes, lettuce, etc. So even a GF bun. But it just depends. Maybe if I have an extra like heavy leg day the day before, I'll add in some more carbohydrates. But something simple and normal can be balanced, and that's really the goal here. Is every plate has a carb, a protein, and a fat, and veggies.
Yeah, to your point about breakfast foods, I actually know that some cultures, for example, in Japan, people have the same food for all
Yeah,
their meals. Like they
yeah,
don't have a distinction between breakfast and dinner and lunch. And so I think it's a
yeah.
lot of this cultural thing that we're like
It's
breakfast. But then
American.
you have cafes that offer breakfast all day long and even at night. And you're
I,
like,
I mean,
well, you see.
I do love me like a Brenner. So yeah, exactly. Like I'll have breakfast for dinner sometimes. So yeah, I think it's definitely American of like the food separation where you can only have like certain proteins or whatever in breakfast. I'm like, that's not the case at all. Like you can have eggs. We have eggs in Thanksgiving, right? We have like deviled eggs. So you can have it wherever.
Exactly.
So I also want to input as we're talking about energy is that if you're active, if you're running, if you're strength training, make sure that you're fueling your body to match that activity. Because I know when I'm strength training, that is a secret to anti-aging, by the way. When you're gaining muscle, if I'm not eating enough, I will feel so exhausted the next day. So make sure that if you're creating more demand, right? Because I'm demanding, I'm tearing my muscles, I want them to recover. I got to make sure that I'm giving it enough fuel. So, next slide, just a reminder if you're an active person. I want you to take away that food is energy. I don't want you to be scared or nervous, even if weight loss is a goal, because long term, what we see, because women are under eating for so long, their metabolism honestly tanks because they're not eating enough. And so weight loss becomes stubborn in the long run. So, actually fueling your body enough, and that amount looks different for everyone. It's so important for energy and honestly for weight loss. So don't be scared or nervous about it. Another simple plate tip that I love to, I think I covered it on our Instagram live, is asking when you're looking at your plate, can you say,
Mhm.
can I grow it or can I kill it? I think that's a really two good questions to let you know if you're eating real nourishing foods. Is can you grow it? Obviously, that's like fruits and vegetables and grains and legumes, and then killing it is like animal proteins. So these are two great questions to assess your plate and see if you're actually eating a lot of nourishing foods.
Well, if I had to, I could kill a donut.
We could we could kill a donut.
I mean, sometimes you just feel like, yes, you're gonna be violent with that donut.
I was like, I do love a good donut. Like that is probably if I do choose a very like junky, typical breakfast food. I obviously can make donuts nourishing too with like the right ingredients. But I mean, I love me a
Mm.
good donut. So switching over from energy to stress as entrepreneurs, I know it feels like it's impossible, but I really want to help connect the dots of how stress is actually hurting you. And this is my favorite thing is piecing all the puzzle pieces together because it does impact you long term and we do have control over it, even though it feels like we don't. So, one of the first ways that stress impacts you is it diverts your brain from talking to your thyroid. So, anyone that has like hypothyroidism, we really want to assess stress levels because if your thyroid is off, it's going to impact your metabolism, it's going to impact reproduction. It's also going to lower your immune system. I think we've kind of all felt that when we're really stressed out, we tend to get sick. But this can also impact your gut, which I'll get into more later, but it does lower your immune system. And then your chronic stress, this is something we call HPA dysfunction. I think in society we call it adrenal fatigue, but the correct term is HPA dysfunction. It stands for hypothalamus pituitary adrenal. And so that's basically your brain talking to your adrenals. That's the little thing sitting above your kidney here in this picture. And so when we're chronically stressed, eventually your adrenals, that communication with your brain and your adrenals, honestly, they go on vacay. Like, listen, I've had a lot of stress. I'm just going to take a break. We see this, and then people start having low stress hormone, that cortisol. And now they're feeling chronically tired. They're not slaying the day. They're not having trouble losing weight. They're having lowered immunity. So, this is how chronic stress long term is going to impact you. You're going to switch from being really high to being really low and just not feeling well. And then when we are stressed, we're in this fight or flight. Your body is going to acknowledge it's not safe. Ovulation is hindered, therefore your periods become irregular, therefore your fertility is impacted. And this is all just stress, y'all. Like this is how like entwined it is with every single area of the body.
I wanted to ask every time people go to a doctor or every time there is some disease or something, the first recommendation is to not stress that much. That stress is the first cause. But unfortunately, you can't just, take a chill pill. I mean, sometimes you have to, but what if you don't want to get it there through medication? What would be your golden rule to like stress less?
That's in the next two slides. Maybe
Oh,
one or
okay.
two slides. So we'll
Oh,
finish it and
okay.
then I'll get to it. So how stress impacts your digestion is that when you're stressed, you're actually not able to digest foods very well. That leaves you really bloated, but it also leaves you at risk for nutrient deficiencies because if you're not pulling those nutrients from food, it's going to happen. This lowered immunity, like I talked about earlier, our little immune system's like our army. So we have naturally bacteria, yeast in the gut. So when the army is also on vacay, then you are going to have issues with things getting imbalanced. And then we're going to start having these symptoms of like bloating and diarrhea and abdominal pain and gas. And then stress also increases our intestinal lining permeability. We know this in society as leaky gut. And we have gates all along aside our intestinal lining. And so when they are too open, then that's going to allow things to come in and cause inflammation. So, getting rid of chronic stress. So, one thing you have to do is understand your stressors, external and internal. So, as I mentioned, internal stressors are like blood sugar imbalances. If you're going up and down that roller coaster, that's very stressful. We're going to talk about sleep as well. So, we want to make sure that we understand any gut issues that can stimulate chronic cortisol. So, also link internal as well as external. That's like our jobs, that's our friends, that's a toxic family member. These things are harder to control, but you just got to do the best you can. And sometimes those are huge changes. That's like changing jobs, firing someone that's not working well in your company, breaking up in a relationship, whether that's a friend or a boyfriend or whoever it may be, sometimes those are the decisions that's actually going to be the chronic stress reliever. So I don't want to overlook those because I think we're really quick to want to throw whatever at it when really like we got to change the stressor in itself. But I do think we need to add more fun. It's plain and simple. We need to add more decompression time for us to journal, do therapy, prayer, box breathing, meditation. All of those are really helpful in decreasing cortisol levels. Honestly, even being in nature, studies have shown that cortisol decreases just being outside and in the trees. And adjusting your expectations as well per your season. So yes, there's some stress supplements. I know it's a common question is like, what are some herbs? What can I take? But again, I don't want you to use that as a natural band-aid without changing the stressor in and of itself. You can't out supplement a poor diet. You can't out supplement being in a poor relationship. Plain simple, period. Now, next slide. I want to show this. This is a little bit more sciencey, but I want to show this because I don't want you to jump right into supplements because sometimes it can be more harm than good. So this is a urinary test that we do. And over there on the right side, in that little corner where it says metabolized cortisol, this is showing total cortisol production. So in this case, adrenals really aren't making a lot of cortisol. So that's actually, there's not a lot being made. And this, the one to the left of it where it says 24-hour free cortisol, this is what can be tested via blood or what tested in saliva. This is obviously done through urine. So when you first look at that, you're like, dang, I'm stressed. Look at my cortisol. It's super high overnight. It's super high in the morning. Let me take all these herbs that are going to reduce cortisol. But when you really look at the total cortisol, it's not a problem of you having too much cortisol. It's actually a problem of you clearing the cortisol out of your body. And so that's sluggish. And what happens when you can't clear cortisol out of the body? We got to look into your liver health. We got to look into your thyroid, hypothyroidism. This is classic. Under eating or an eating disorder. Those can all slow down clearing out cortisol. So the solution isn't to do an herb to lower cortisol. It's to make sure that we ramp up that metabolism and like just get it cleared. And then once you get that flowing and you're able to clear it and metabolize it properly, that free cortisol will actually match and go super low like it should. So there's a lot more to the story than just like, oh, I have high cortisol, let me take ashwagandha. And that's why I say test, don't guess, because in this case, like, no, I don't want a bunch of cortisol lowering herbs because that total cortisol is so low. So it's more so like understanding why the metabolism is off, and then your free cortisol will match and be low. And then we got to, reset and renourish and rest our adrenals and stuff. So I just like showing that. I know it's a little bit too sciencey, but for people to see, this is why we're like test, don't guess, and just throw whatever at it. Next slide.
Yeah, I was wondering. You mentioned that under eating might cause that cortisol levels. Do you think that eating, like stress eating, is a response to that? So our body is trying to like push the cortisol down through like eating
Enough.
food.
Yeah, what's so interesting is like some people will overeat and like that makes them eat, and then some people will not eat during stress. So I don't know, it's just a different response everyone has. And usually when we're stressed, our hunger hormones are a little off, so we naturally will crave more. I think too, sometimes when we crave salty foods when we're stressed, our body is needing more like sodium and minerals. And so I think it's a natural way for our body to signal like, hey, we need more of these minerals because we're working really hard over here. So add more. But usually when like we're craving those salty things, we're like going for like the not healthy salty things. So yes, whenever we're stressed, we are using our nutrients way faster. And that's why there's risk for nutrient deficiencies. Because again, demand is high and supply, if you don't match that or try to like supplement or whatever, then nutrient deficiencies will happen. It's all about like supply and demand with nutrients. So sleep is another thing that we struggle with in hustle culture. We're staying up late, we're putting our bedtime on the back burner, but sleep is so underrated for feeling well in every regard. Maintaining a good weight, feeling energized, having good hormones, it absolutely is key. So I want to go into that too. So when we get little sleep, One night of poor sleep can increase insulin resistance the next day. Remember, we talked about blood sugar is queen. We need balanced blood sugar for healthy sex hormones, good stress levels. We can't be riding that crazy roller coaster. Also, when we get little sleep, I know I see this so much, our hunger hormones are thrown off. So I am always so hungry the day after I don't get enough
Ah.
sleep. And I also am like, you're grabbing not the best things. When you also have little still sleep, again, we talked about stress, that does increase stress hormone. Then your sex hormones are going to be changed. It does increase inflammation and it does give you brain fog. That sleep part is really critical for literally brain dumping and resetting for the next day. So my favorite ways of creating a healthier sleep routine is finding a wind down time and like sticking to it. I love wearing blue blockers by the time the sun goes down. That helps us produce our melatonin, our sleepy hormone. So if you do have to be on the screens or you want to be on the screens, like watching a show, just wear blue blockers. I love getting a good protein and a starch at the end of the day for dinner because that can produce serotonin, which helps produce melatonin, which is our sleepy hormone. And I am obsessed with red light therapy. It is a little bit more on the bougier side if you want to invest in something, but it does show to increase melatonin levels because it helps support the mitochondria, that little battery inside the cell that makes energy. And honestly, that's where hormone production is made. So I love red light therapy to
Is
hang
it the same that's used for skincare? I see a lot of
on.
people use those masks for like acne treatments with red lights.
Yes, but I prefer like the actual, like that picture showed, like an actual machine, because I will rotate. I'll put it on my face. I'll put it on my abdomen. I'll want to support my cells in like different areas of the body, not just my face. But yeah,
Mhm.
same thing. Lavender, chamomile tea, those really relaxing teas, meditation, brain dumping is key. It's something that I heard about it, but I'm like, it's really not gonna make a big difference. But as an entrepreneur, when your brain has like all the things, it actually helps a ton. So just brain dumping everything before bed and then getting outside when the sun is setting and then when the sun is rising. And that helps realign our internal clock, which is great. So, as you can see, this holistic approach is so needed. We're really wanting to tackle the root cause. We're not wanting to put band aids on anything. So, if you want to hang out with me more and kind of geek out on this stuff, I have two podcasts. I have Functional
Ooh.
Nutrition Radio, which is it's just me solo, but that's our like all nutrition stuff. And then our other podcast is Power Women Wellness, where we're interviewing women in power, climbing the corporate ladder, entrepreneurs, and we're honestly like getting a behind the scenes look of their routines and their habits and how they incorporate like self-care with, running a business or climbing the corporate ladder. So those are our two podcasts. And we also have free classes on our website. We have thyroid classes, we have estrogen dominance all the things. I'm always adding to the list. So you can always sign up for free classes and kind of go through this as I'm, again, helping you connect the dots. And then next slide, if you actually need help, we do offer 2, 4, and 6 month packages. They're so hand-holding. Lab testing can be included in some of our packages. There's unlimited texting. You have your dietitian. You're meeting with them weekly or biweekly, giving you that support and accountability. Diet is most of what we look at, but honestly, we look at movement, stress, sleep, and your environment. And we also started personally compounding supplements. So I can have like literally Lahana's formula where it is all the herbs and nutrients I need based on testing, and I can customize dosing, which is really cool. So that's our hand holding, like you're ready to just like tackle health issues, do labs. But if you're not ready to commit to a package, we are offering Austin Businesswoman a single lab test in a single hour session
Yay.
for $699. Most of our combos of labs and single sessions are like 800 to over 1,000. So any lab, it could be stool, it could be hormone, it could be micronutrient. We kind of do it all. So definitely just, reach out to me. I added our little business, our Google business listing here because we're so proud to be Austin's top rated. We work so hard for these reviews. As y'all know, it's hard to get people to review.
It is.
So we
Especially
are
when they're happy. When they're happy, they don't want to comment.
yes, yes. So we're pretty adamant of like, please. No, I'm just kidding. We don't beg, but we do remind. And so we're so proud of like all those reviews. If you want to see other people's experience with us, the best stories are in there. They are so good. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out. And then you can reach out to us, of course, all on social at Nuvie True Wellness. But something that we do is we offer a free 15-minute call. If you're kind of deciding, like, should I do a package or should I do a single session in a lab? This is what the intro call is for. So we can make sure we're a fit, and we can like kind of start off and say, you should probably do this lab. And this is like the first steps we'd want to do. So you can fill out that form on that website page and we can get connected.
Thank you so much. This was so educational, and it was much more scientific than I expected. But I mean, it's important to understand all those processes so you don't
Yeah.
get misguided, because there are so many voices now on social media and everywhere of people
Yeah.
who tell you what to eat, what not to eat. And there are a lot of absolute statements, those like never eat a burger, or like
Yes.
always only drink that. So you might get, into this misconception area where you're thinking that you're doing all the right things for your health, but you
Yeah.
don't. So sometimes it helps to look into a textbook or find someone who knows how it works.
Yeah, for sure. And like lab testing is so key to really understand that. Cause like I said, you saw the difference with like cortisol and all those different markers that come entailed with that. But it is definitely like, I know people jump from one thing to another, like intermittent fasting, not intermittent fasting, keto, not keto. And honestly, a lot of those are not necessary to the extreme that people need. And then also for different seasons of life, different, if you're in your reproductive phase versus premenopausal or menopausal, like things are different. So, I mean, as women, we are truly on a roller coaster. And we got to be shifting and changing as we go.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk and pick your brain, and
Yes.
just tell more people about your amazing business and how you've been helping hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of people already get that balance and just tweak their system to, absorb the right things and get rid of the wrong things and just be happier.
Yes. Thanks for having me, y'all. So fun.
Okay. Well, we'll be tagging Lahana and all her contact information in the video on our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube accounts. And don't forget about the special gift and special discount for ABW members. And have a great day, everyone.